Excuse me, hello. I thought I'd read to you guys another true story of God's divine touch from my book, Miracles in Tough Times. It's from the editors of Guidepost. Guidepost is really good. I love it too. My aunt got this for me for Christmas. So I thought I would read you guys another story. I've already got one on here. I think, or maybe I read from the other book. Maybe I haven't read from this book at all. Alright. Well, this story is called It All Depends on How You Look at It. And it is by Barbara J. Fisher. So I will begin. These are just really short stories. I was blind. It was only for 6 weeks, but it seemed like an eternity at the time. Strange though it may seem, while I was blind, I saw the people in my life more clearly than ever. My disability taught me to look with my heart rather than my eyes. At the time, I was in Columbus, Ohio hospital, feeling scared, alone, and homesick for my husband and 5 children. I'm sure the darkness exaggerated these feelings even more. I spent hours, even days, wondering if I would ever see my children's faces again. When the nurse told me I was getting a roommate, I was really displeased. Ironically, I didn't want anyone to see me this way. But like it or not, my roommate Joni soon moved in to the bed next to mine. In spite of my best efforts to dwell in self-pity, I almost immediately started liking Joni. She had a positive attitude, was always cheerful, and never complained about her own illness. She often sensed my fear and depression and had a knack for raising my spirits. She joked that I was lucky not to be able to see myself in the mirror. My hair was a mess from lying in the bed for a week, and I had gained several pounds from the cortisone IVs. No matter how sad or angry I felt, Joni could always make me smile. When Joe, my husband, would come to visit, he sometimes brought all 5 children with him. It was quite a challenge for him to dress 5 kids, all under 6 years old, and they often came to the hospital in mismatched outfits. After they were gone, Joni would tell me the specifics of what each one had worn. Then she would read each "I love you" and "Please get well soon, Mommy" from the cards they had brought. When friends sent fresh flowers, Joni described them to me. She would open my mail and tell me how lucky I was to have so many friends. At mealtime, she would help me feed myself. Again, she convinced me that, just for the moment perhaps, I was lucky to be blinded so I couldn't see the hospital food. One evening, Joe came to visit alone. Joni must have sensed need for privacy. She was so quiet, I wasn't sure she was in the room. During his visit, Joe and I talked about the possibility that I might never see again. He assured me that nothing could change his love for me, and that no matter what, we would always have each other and would continue to raise our family together. For hours, he held me in his arms, let me cry, and tried to make my dark world a tiny bit better. After he lifted, I heard Joni stirring in her bed. When I asked her if she was awake, she said, "Do you know how lucky you are to have so many people loving you? Your husband and kids are beautiful. You are truly blessed." I knew that during our weeks together in the hospital, Joni hadn't had a husband or child visiting her. Her mother and minister came occasionally, but they only stayed a short time. I suddenly felt very selfish. I had been so wrapped up in myself I haven't even allowed her to confide in me. From her doctor's visits, I knew Joni was very sick, but I didn't really know with what. I'd heard her doctor call her illness by a long Latin name, but I had never asked what it meant. I hadn't even taken the time to inquire. I realized how self-centered I had become, and I hated myself for it. I turned over and started to cry. I asked God to forgive me. I promised that first thing the next morning, I would ask Joni about her illness, and I'd let her know how grateful I was for all she had done for me, and I'd be sure to tell her that I loved her. I never got the chance to say those things to Joni. When I awoke the next morning, the curtain was pulled between our beds, and I could hear people whispering nearby. I strained to hear what they were saying. A minister was repeating, "May she rest in eternal peace." Before I could tell her I loved her, Joni had died. I learned later that Joni had come to the hospital for that very reason. She knew when she was admitted that she would not return home, yet she had never complained and had spent the final days of her life giving hope to me. Joni must have sensed her life was ending that night when she told me how blessed I was. After I cried myself to sleep, she had written me a note. The day nurse read it to me that morning. And when my vision came back, I read it again and again myself. Joni writes, "My friend, thank you for making my last day so special. I found great happiness in our friendship. I know that you care for me too, sight unseen. Sometimes to get our full attention, God must knock us down, or at least make us blind. With my final breath, I pray that you will soon be seeing again, but not especially in the way you think. If you can only learn to see with your heart, then your life will be complete. Remember me with love, Joni." That night I awoke from a deep sleep. As I lay in bed, I realized that I could vaguely see the brightness of the tiny night light along the baseboard. My vision was coming back. Only a little bit, but I could see. But even more important, for the first time in my life, I could see with my heart. I know that Joni had been placed in my life for that very reason. Even though I never knew what she looked like, I am sure she was one of the most beautiful people in the world. And though I never told her I loved her, I believe she knew. I have lost my vision several times since then, but thanks to Joni, I will never allow myself to lose sight of the important things in life. Things like warmth, love, and sometimes even sorrow, if shared with someone special, can be beautiful. It just depends on how you look at it. Alright guys, that was that story. I hope you enjoyed it.